There is a classic narrative structure in most stories that you've been exposed to in movies and in books, and it's called Freytag's pyramid or triangle. And it helps us, even with business storytelling, to understand this. It starts with an introduction, the once upon a time. So this allows a storyteller to set the scene, understand the characters, share more of those details so you can start creating mental movies as a reader or a listener. And then there's an inciting incident, right? Something happens. Usually it's the character reacts to something in that situation or to another character, and it starts a chain of events, or if it's a more simple story, one event. And then there's rising action. The story builds after this conflict and we're captivated, right? We want to know what's going to happen until it climaxes. And the story reaches the part of its greatest tension at that point. That usually is a longer lead up. You're seeing that kind of pyramid shape, if you will, but it's not a classic triangle or pyramid because that takes a little bit more time, that build up. The falling action is usually shorter. And the falling action is the story shifts to an action that happens as a result of that climax. So it could be that the person who learned their lessons are taking accountability for those lessons, or realizing something in their life meant more than they had at the beginning of the story. And then there is a resolution or denouement. So let's see an example of an expert storyteller telling us a story. This is Glenna Salisbury. Glenna is a professional speaker. She's part of National Speakers Association as well. And in this presentation, she is illustrating a point that she's making by sharing a story of her and her husband taking a trip to Africa and an encounter that they had there. And she's using it to make a bigger point. Watch how she models this framework that we just learned to engage us in the story and leave us with a lasting message.
My husband and I took a trip to Africa a few years ago. On that trip, we went to Kenya. And as we were driving around the backcountry of Kenya with a driver and a Land Rover, I noticed on the map we were going to come up on a little village that was situated right on the equator. And I thought, wouldn't it be exciting to say that you stood on the equator? I thought maybe there'd be a line painted there. So I asked the driver if we could stop, and he said sure. So we jumped out of the car, and we're kind of just wandering around. And I looked up, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this good-looking Maasai warrior running toward us. He was about 6'5". He looked like maybe he was 25 years old. He had this big smile on his face, and he came running up right to where we were, and he said, "I'm so glad you're here." I'm going, did we have an appointment? He said, "I want to show you something. Watch this." And he went around behind a tree. And out from behind the tree, he brought a bucket and a pitcher full of water and a funnel and loose grass clippings. And he poured the water through the pitcher, put the grass clippings on top, and it went straight through the funnel into a bucket. He said, "Isn't that incredible? That's because we're right on the equator. Watch this." And he walked about 10 feet north of this imaginary line, poured the water through the funnel, put the grass clippings on top, and it swirled clockwise. He said, "Isn't that incredible? Watch this." Turned around, walked 10 feet south of the imaginary line, did the same experiment again, and this time it swirled counterclockwise. He said, "Isn't that fantastic?" And we paid him. Isn't that fantastic? The truth is, he had given that demonstration hundreds of times. Wouldn't you agree? Absolutely. But it was the first time for us. And he gave it as if he had never given it before. He saw it through our eyes.
So stories enable us to share more of who we are and what we've experienced. It's really a privilege to be able to share a story and share some of ourselves.